Michael Burry turning bearish on the markets. We have the Fed meeting minutes, we have some retail numbers, and we have some FUD around a Bitcoin spot ETF. This and much more we discuss in this week's update. Hey and welcome, how are you doing? My name is Julian, CEO and co-founder of the Cake Group. I run this personal YouTube channel where I update you in regular intervals on what's going on. My mission is to make you CryptoFit, to understand the beautiful world of decentralization, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and much more. Normally these updates happen on Monday. This week I was way too busy on Monday. Tuesday, my wife's birthday, so it's coming out on Wednesday. And actually it doesn't really matter because the biggest action is actually going to start today with the meeting minutes, and we're going to have earnings. So all of this is rather happening in the later part of the week, so we're not really missing anything right now, and markets have been very calm. So let's get started. First and foremost, Michael Burry came out, and actually he didn't come out, but was revealed that by the end of June, now in point taken, this is 6 weeks later, he had a massive put option on the S&P and on the Nasdaq. That means he's betting on the markets going down. Now that news headline was that he had 1.6 billion, which is humongous. But, and this is the key but, this is just when you calculate it out. Now, this is basically the notional total value. Key thing here, the purchase price he actually had, right? And a lot of these things are not things that you actually execute on. These are just financial bets. The actual bet here seems to have been around $500,000 or $1 million. And so in a whole grand scheme of things, it's not so much of a bet that the markets are going down, it's more of an insurance policy that markets may go down. And this is something that I'm very much in line with. I mean, valuations and everything really high. Markets have been ripping, especially tech markets have been ripping in the first half of the year. So no surprise there. I think this is a bigger news headline than it actually it's going to turn out to be. Key thing though, I just want to be very clear. I think at this point in time, it does make sense to rather buy crypto than tech stocks. I think this is a better, interesting model. And yeah, quick note, our dollar cost averaging on Bake has launched with getting a lot of pickup there. We're doing quite some interesting promotional things. So take a look there, go to bake.io and check this out. So that's the Michael Burry story. Second story of the week, Fed meeting minutes. And this is going to be an interesting one. They're going to come out today, Wednesday. It's more of an interpretation here. Obviously, no new kind of interest rate hike. The next one could be in September. It's very likely that we're going to see confirmation that there's going to be no hike in September. I think the language is going to be somewhat like, we're going to be very data driven. We're going to look at inflation. We're going to look at corporate results. We're going to look at the workforce. So it's going to be a very clear sign that if they're going to do another hike, it's going to happen in November. And I think that's also what the market is expecting. So not expecting that it's going to be another hike in November, but expecting that September is going to be a bit of a pause. So that's very much in line. And then we're going to see how is actual September, October doing, because then on the 1st of November, we're going to see the decision for the next move. Again, we may also see some reinforcement that the Fed is not expecting any rate lowering the entire year. Again, the market right now is expecting this a bit more to be pushed into Q2 next year. So definitely another 9 months or something before we're going to see any kind of rate lowering. So, and I want to be very clear on this, right? Most rate hikes don't really have an impact until a year later. So I think over the next 6 to 9 months, you're going to see a bit of the screws tightening on this. So that's going to be a key thing. We have earnings this week, and it's kind of the last week. We mentioned this now that it's coming to a close. This is kind of the really last week, and it finishes with the big retailers, Kroger's, Walmart's, Target. And what we want to see there is a bit of the consumer sentiment, and we want to see a bit on what's going to be the kind of focus here for a potential recession for these very staples kind of companies. I mean, these companies, right, are the companies that people will continue shopping at, no matter if there's a recession or not. The question is just how much and what's kind of the sentiment there. How many dollars are people leaving on the table? One interesting thing here, obviously, is the slowing down of inflation is also going to have an impact on these companies' earnings potential. I mean, these companies actually benefit the most from inflation, because they're always hardware goods. So there they can really have the highest margins when inflation comes in, depending on obviously if they can hit the arbitrage there, that they can buy the goods still at the lower price, and then they can really go and say, hey, look, inflation is really tough, we need to hike prices by 10-15%, and they can get this upside. And so right now, let's see a bit on what's happening there in this entire kind of focus point. Yesterday, I think Target came out yesterday already on Tuesday. Their reporting was okay, really not like that you're getting too worried. So at the moment was quite solid. So yeah, nothing to write home about. So I think that was quite good. That's kind of the macro stock market update. If we head over to crypto, I think the number one thing in crypto right now, let's look at my largest three holdings, right? So Ethereum, DeFi chain, Bitcoin. On the Ethereum side, we're kind of gearing up. Q4 is going to be a bit of the sharding kind of upgrade. So that's still going to take a while. And I think Ethereum, while to me is the only blockchain in the space right now that actually produces real yield, is the... If someone would come to me and say, just invest in one blockchain, it would be Ethereum. Hands down. Why? I think the risk downside is very similar to Bitcoin, but I think the upside is just way bigger. It produces cash flow. There's just so much more usage on it, and we can see this. And so this is very strong, and I think this makes a lot of sense. If you hold ETH, make sure you also stake it. Obviously, I would love that you come to bake.io and stake it there, completely transparent. I think it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, difficult for Ethereum right now to just kind of take an action of its own. Bitcoin, which is my third largest position, is that position that really is going to depend right now on a spot ETF. Bitcoin always suffers from having basically almost no utility, so the focus is a lot on price. It's a lot about price going up or down, and that's going to drive a lot of these things. And by design, right? And that's what people always say, it doesn't need utility. The utility is a store of value. That's not the utility, that's a result. But it's such a strong driver for it. So the number one thing on Bitcoin right now is really going to be, are we going to see a Bitcoin spot ETF or not? Grant taken. On Ethereum, we're also going to see a futures ETF. And I think that probability of that happening earlier than a Bitcoin spot ETF is actually relatively high. So we may actually see some action there other than the sharding upgrade. So that's a key kind of thing. And around that Bitcoin spot ETF, we have seen a delay on Friday. So it's going to get pushed. And now obviously people are looking at all these dates. There are dates in September, October, November, all the way to January, even March next year, where an approval of a Bitcoin spot ETF can be granted. And here's my entire take on this. I do believe the probabilities of a Bitcoin spot ETF have shifted into favor of it being granted. But I think people are way too optimistic about the timeline. And I really think it's going to take way longer than people guesstimate. I know that people all kind of think this is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 months, and I'm rather focused on probably somewhere next year, Q1, Q2 next year. And I think we're going to see a bit of a good spring next year with Bitcoin halving, a spot ETF, lowering of rates. So I think we're going to see another tough 6 months. And with tough, I'm not saying bear market, I'm talking about, or like crashing prices, I'm talking more about bear sentiment. Very boring sentiment, sideways movement. And listen guys, this is the key idea when you want a dollar cost average. It's these times when you want the dollar cost average. So that's going to be an interesting one. Go to bake.io, dollar cost average, and get some bonuses on top. And last but not least, DeFi chain. Here, meta chain layer expected to come out soon. Yuzen made a very good tweet today. Head over to Twitter and look at that, where he talks about the challenges to going from testnet to mainnet, just to make sure that all of this is super smooth. There's no bugs. There's the compatibility. So yeah, the team working on this very, very heavily. And I know that Yuzen himself right now really digging in, going through a lot of things, making sure everything is safe and good and sound. So yeah, that looks very, very promising. So honestly, short term right now, I think DeFi chain has the biggest chance of breaking out. Obviously, also has the highest volatility of all three of them. Ethereum betting a bit on the futures ETF, sharding. Bitcoin right now, while I think it's going to be obviously the coin with the most solid footing, it's going to have a hard time right now gaining some price traction unless the Bitcoin spot ETF is coming. I just don't see where else the traction should be coming from. That's kind of it at the moment. So yeah, these are the things I'm watching. It's price-wise, a very dull week, or it's been dull weeks. Building-wise, it's been insanely busy, insanely productive. You're going to see a lot of updates from our group, so that's quite cool. And if you want to always take a look, you can go to cake.group and see a bit of the overview of all the various verticals. But it's massive action happening, so that's good. With that, if you haven't subscribed yet, every day I'm also uploading some really funny shorts. I hope you're appreciating those. Check them out. They're getting a lot of views, and then you don't miss any of that good stuff. Obviously, those updates, those videos. So click the subscribe button. If you like this, click the like, share, and then I'll see you next time. Thanks so much, everyone. Get CryptoFit. If you don't get cash flow in crypto yet, do that. Bake, if you're not dollar cost averaging, head to bake.io and do that. And then I'll see you next time. Thank you, Julian. Bye-bye.